it's Pastor Dan from Dexter Gospel Church. Appreciate you watching this Proverbs Practical. We change gears now from behaviors that Solomon and God found obnoxious and turn instead to something that, well, okay, some people might find it irritating, but it is commanded by God. So we're in Proverbs 25, verse 21. Proverbs 25:21 says, "If thine enemy be hungry, give him bread to eat, and if he be thirsty, give him water to drink." Now, this is a pretty counterintuitive approach to dealing with enemies. Our normal reaction is to think that if our enemy is hungry and thirsty, good, he deserves it. He's a bad guy. Maybe this will weaken him so he won't be so dangerous or harmful to us. Or we think maybe he's hungry because he made bad decisions and now he's just reaping the fruit of what he sowed and we're going to let him have that fruit. Maybe we'll be more spiritual about it and think that perhaps this is God's judgment on him and we certainly wouldn't want to get in the way of God working on this person. But instead, God tells us that if our enemy needs something, we should help supply that need. We should feed them when they're hungry. We should give them water when they're thirsty. Might that strengthen them when they are weak? Yes, it might. It could potentially make them more dangerous down the road. Yes, their bad situation might be the result of their own bad choices, and yes, it's even possible that their problems are a result of God's judgment on them. Is any of that a reason not to love them? All of humanity's problems, all of our poverty and hunger and thirst and suffering are because of our collective bad choices, our enmity against God, our opposition to Him, our disobedience of Him. I'm glad He loves us anyway, has given us the bread of life and living water. Our eternal destiny was because of God's judgment on our sin, but He loves us anyway, and He saves us from that through Jesus Christ. We should have the same response to our enemies. This aligns perfectly with what Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 5, verses 44 and 45. He said, "But I say unto you, love your enemies. Bless them that curse you. Do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you, that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. For He makes His sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust." There's no one in the world that we have permission not to love. Not even our enemies. Not even our political opponents. As I read this, I remember that Solomon is writing to a son of a king, a young man who's going to be involved in politics and administration his whole life. His enemies here don't include just classmates who pick on him or neighbors who are grumpy. They include his harshest political opponents, people who might very well wish him the worst and seek to harm him and everything he stands for. Sometimes people think that there is a different ethic in the Old Testament than in the New, sometimes taking verses out of context to try to show that. But this shows that God has always wanted His people to love their enemies, and to show that love in practical, meaningful ways, just as God loved us when we were estranged from Him. What about this, about the problem they're having being judgment from God, though, and not wanting to interfere with God working in someone's life? I think that's perhaps subtly addressed in the next verse, as Solomon talks about the outcomes of doing what he's instructed here. But we'll have to see that in our next video. I hope this video is a help to you. If it is, give it a like. If you haven't already, subscribe to our channel for more like it. Until next time, I hope you stay well and help even your enemies.